What if heaven's brightest angel never rebelled? What if Lucifer had stayed loyal to God forever? Everything about human existence would be unrecognizably different. Get ready, because what you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about good, evil, and the true nature of spiritual freedom. Why the greatest rebel might actually be humanity's true savior. Here's something that'll blow your mind. What if everything you've been taught about Lucifer is backwards? What if the so-called fall wasn't a disaster, but the most crucial moment in human history? Stay with me, because this gets deep. In traditional Christianity, Lucifer is the ultimate villain, the serpent, the deceiver, the embodiment of evil itself. But let's pause and really think about this. Before his rebellion, what was humanity? Adam and Eve lived in Eden, sure, but they existed in a state of complete ignorance. No growth, no evolution, no real consciousness. They were perfect prisoners, trapped in innocence that prevented any meaningful development. Then came the serpent, often linked to Lucifer, offering the forbidden fruit. And here's where it gets fascinating. That fruit represented knowledge. The moment Eve bit into it, something profound happened. Humanity woke up. We gained awareness. We developed the ability to choose, to question, to think for ourselves. Without that moment, we'd still be mindless beings following orders without understanding why. Think about your own life for a second. When did you grow the most? When you blindly obeyed? Or when you questioned everything? When you stayed safe and comfortable? Or when you challenged what you were told? Every major breakthrough you've ever had came from asking, what if there's another way? This is where Gnosticism completely transforms the narrative. In Gnostic traditions, ancient spiritual teachings, that Christianity tried to suppress, Lucifer isn't the enemy. He's the liberator. He brought gnosis, which means divine knowledge, the kind that awakens your soul from its programmed sleep. The Gnostics believed that the material world wasn't created by the true God, the source of infinite love and wisdom. Instead, it was created by a flawed being they called the demiurge, a blind god who wanted to control human souls, keeping them trapped in ignorance. And who came to free humanity from this prison? Lucifer. He was the messenger of true light, the one who dared to reveal that there's something beyond the invisible chains binding us. Feel the weight of that. Without Lucifer's rebellion, humanity might never have awakened. We'd be living in eternal blind obedience, never questioning, never evolving, never seeking truth. The rebellion wasn't the problem, it was the solution. It was the spark that ignited human consciousness. And here's what's really wild. His name literally means light bringer, not darkness. Light. He didn't bring evil, he brought the possibility of seeing clearly, of understanding, of breaking free from mental and spiritual slavery. So ask yourself right now, what truths in your life have you accepted without questioning? What beliefs are you holding on to just because someone told you to? How ancient Greece proves rebellion is sacred. Let me connect the dots in a way that'll change everything. Ever heard of Prometheus? In Greek mythology, Prometheus was a titan who loved humanity so much that he committed the ultimate act of defiance. Humans were living in darkness, powerless and vulnerable. So Prometheus stole sacred fire from the gods and gave it to mortals. Zeus was enraged. Prometheus was chained to a rock where an eagle ate his liver every single day for eternity. But here's the key. Prometheus knew the consequences. He knew exactly what would happen, and he chose humanity's freedom anyway. Sound familiar? Lucifer and Prometheus are mirror images of each other. Both defied divine authority to bring knowledge to humanity. Both were brutally punished. Both became eternal symbols of rebellion. But were they villains or misunderstood heroes? Because without Prometheus's fire, humanity would have stayed primitive forever. Without the flame of knowledge, we'd still be in the dark. Now, here's where your mind should be exploding. What if Lucifer had never fallen? If he'd stayed in heaven, perfectly obedient and submissive, humanity would never have received the gift of knowledge. No science, no philosophy, no art, no ability to question power structures, to seek our own truth, to break free from the invisible chains that bind us. Think about every moment of personal growth you've experienced. Didn't it start with questioning something? Didn't it begin when you dared to challenge what you were taught to accept without thinking? Rebellion isn't the opposite of spirituality, it's the heart of spiritual evolution. Because there's no transformation without the courage to break what imprisons you. In Gnostic teachings, this is everything. Salvation doesn't come from blind obedience. It comes from awakening consciousness. And who awakens consciousness? The one who brings light. Lucifer the light bringer didn't bring darkness. He brought the ability to see. That changes everything. Here's what most people miss. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was eventually freed. Hercules broke his chains. That symbolizes something profound. The rebel's sacrifice isn't eternal. It has a purpose. And when that purpose is fulfilled, redemption comes. Maybe the same awaits Lucifer. Maybe he's waiting for humanity to fully awaken before returning to his rightful place. What are you willing to question in your own life right now? Which truths are you accepting without really thinking? Because the real spiritual journey begins when you stop following blindly and start seeking with an awakened heart. What Christianity doesn't want you to know about divine opposition. Let's go deeper into territory most people never explore. What if Lucifer's fall was always part of a much bigger divine plan? What if God knew that for humanity to evolve, we needed an agent of transformation, someone to shake up the structure, to challenge control, to bring the chaos necessary for growth? In esoteric Christianity and various mystical traditions, there's a completely different view of Lucifer. He's not just the enemy, he's the necessary adversary. Without opposition, there's no choice. Without choice, there's no free will. And without free will, there's no real love, because love without freedom is just programmed obedience. So imagine this, if Lucifer had never fallen, if he'd remained in heaven as a perfect servant, humanity would be spiritual robots, incapable of choosing good, because we'd never know evil. We'd be trapped in a paradise that's actually a golden cage. Because true divinity isn't obedience, it's the conscious choice to love, to grow, to evolve. And here's something even more profound. Some spiritual traditions believe that Lucifer will ultimately be redeemed, that his fall was a voluntary sacrifice, that he accepted carrying the weight of opposition and rebellion so humanity could awaken. And when all creation has learned the necessary lessons, when all souls have awakened to truth, Lucifer will return to the light. Can you feel the magnitude of this? It's not about good versus evil. It's about integration, about understanding that light and shadow work together for evolution. In Gnosticism, this is the great revelation. The true enemy isn't Lucifer, it's ignorance. And ignorance is only defeated when we seek knowledge with courage and an open heart. The rebel isn't the villain in this story. The rebel is the teacher, the one who shows us that we're meant for more than blind submission. That questioning isn't sin, it's the path to genuine enlightenment. In your own spiritual journey, when have you grown most? When you conformed? Or when you dared to think differently? When you accepted everything at face value? Or when you dug deeper? If this perspective resonates with you, type "awakened" in the comments. Tell me, do you believe rebellion can be sacred? That challenging unjust structures is part of spiritual evolution? Drop a like and subscribe to keep exploring these hidden truths together. The real sin isn't rebellion, it's never asking why. We've arrived at what might be the most important realization of all. What if the real sin isn't disobedience, but passive acceptance? What if the greatest mistake we can make is never questioning, never seeking, never daring to challenge what we're told to believe? Look at every major spiritual figure throughout history. Jesus challenged the Pharisees, questioned rigid religious laws, drove the merchants from the temple. Buddha left his palace, abandoned comfort and security to seek truth beyond illusions. The prophets were persecuted because they dared bring messages that disturbed the powerful. All of them, in their own way, were rebels. So why do we paint rebellion as inherently negative? Why do we associate questioning with sin? Maybe because those in power, whether religious, political, or social, fear people who think for themselves. They fear those who seek truth, instead of accepting control. And that's why Lucifer was demonized. Because he represents exactly that. The courage to question, to seek, to break free from what imprisons us. In Gnosticism, This is the essence of gnosis. You don't find God through blind obedience, but through awakening consciousness. And awakening consciousness always begins with a question. Always starts with, what if? What if what I've been told isn't the whole truth? What if there's something greater waiting for me beyond these chains? You feel it, don't you? That restlessness. That sense that there's more. That inner voice pushing you to seek beyond what you've been taught. That's not rebellion, it's your soul's calling. It's the divine spark within you asking to be awakened. And here's the final truth. If Lucifer had never fallen, you wouldn't have that spark. You wouldn't have this capacity to question, to seek, to evolve. You'd be trapped in eternal obedience, without growth, without transformation, without the sacred journey that makes life meaningful. So maybe we should thank the rebel, thank the one who dared to challenge, who carried the weight of shadow, who brought the light of knowledge, even knowing the price he'd pay. Because without him, without that disruptive force, humanity would never have awakened. Now answer honestly, what will you do with this light? Will you keep accepting everything you're told, or will you dare to seek your own truth? If you're ready to truly awaken, type rebel in the comments, hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel. The journey is just beginning, and there are so many more revelations waiting for you.